Let's talk about 7 things that you may not realize are signs of being in survival mode. When I started focusing on decluttering my life, I realized that even though my life had leveled up, I was still defaulting to these survival mode instincts, costing my ability to fully step into this life that I had worked so hard to build. You may find yourself in one or all of these. Before we get into them, let's quickly name what survival mode is. Survival mode is a biological reflex where, in seasons of stress or trauma, your mind and your body shift into this state of protecting you above all else. And it is genuinely a good thing when you need it, but the effects tend to linger long after a hard season ends. First, you live in worst case scenario. So here's what it looks like. Say you get a really good opportunity, and instead of feeling excited, your brain immediately jumps to everything that could fall apart. Or you want to start something new, but you instantly imagine failing. You think about the future, and instead of imagining possibility, your brain starts building these disaster plans. Loss, embarrassment, financial problems, rejection, regret. It also shows up in your home. When you are mentally preparing for what if, it becomes really hard to let go of things. So you keep the backups, the things that you might use someday, the clothes that no longer fit, but they could again, the random things that you spent money on that now feel too wasteful to donate. Speaking of waste, the stuff that needs to find the right home, meaning that it never finds a home other than yours because it's too wasteful to get rid of it. The bins of just in case. From the outside, it can look like disorganization or overconsumption, but underneath it is a lot of fear. Fear that if you let it go, you'll need it later. Fear that if you throw it away, something bad will happen. Fear that being prepared is what keeps you safe. Clutter is often the physical manifestation and the physical evidence of this emotional over-preparation. Decluttering is what forced me to confront some beliefs that I didn't even realize that I was still carrying. If you haven't heard my story, my hard season was brought on in my 20s when my parents died, and suddenly I was thrust into this new role where I was parenting my younger brother and sister. I was navigating my own grief. I am learning to be adult. I'm doing all of these things, and immediately fear and survival were my new normal. Years after the hard season had ended, I had finished my PhD, got married, was building a really great life, and I started decluttering. I found that my home was arranged around fears that were no longer necessary. Makeup and lotions and fun things that I was saving for later. Things that I bought and kept that reflected this fear of loss rather than hope for my future. You think that you're being realistic and practical and prepared, but really deep inside, being caught off guard feels dangerous. So you subconsciously try to stay one step ahead of discomfort by emotionally living there before it ever arrives. And after a while, worst case scenario thinking starts to feel more believable than peace and abundance. I never like to expose a problem without giving you a way to work through it. So for each of these, I'm going to give you something to try that's helped me. Here's what I want you to do this week. Start noticing when your brain automatically jumps to the worst case scenario. And then I want you to ask yourself, what is the best case scenario of this thing? Part of healing from survival mode is teaching yourself that you don't have to emotionally move into disaster mode before it happens in order to survive it. You need a reason to enjoy yourself. Survival mode teaches you that fun is frivolous, not necessary for survival. So a good test of whether you're still living there is your ability to enjoy things without needing a justification. Can you buy flowers for yourself just because? Can you wear the good outfit even if it isn't a special occasion? Do you allow yourself to slow down simply because you need it? In survival mode, if the justification doesn't feel strong enough, you talk yourself out of it because experience has taught you that moments of joy are few and far between. I have talked about on my channel that I used to be a die-hard save it for later girly, where I would treat myself to nice things that maybe I had saved up to be able to have. Makeup, perfume, clothes, stationery, whatever. And my instinct was to save it for a special occasion. It was like I had to wait to now earn the right to use it because those things were for, I don't know, the big times. And don't get me wrong, I am not talking about having a healthy relationship with delayed gratification. That is a necessary part of life, not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about never letting yourself experience the joy of the thing at all. Saving the candle until the scent is lost. Saving the outfit while constantly rotating the same tired clothes. Saving the notebook until years later when you realize that it has sat blank in the back of a drawer. I started realizing how much of that mindset had nothing to do with being responsible and everything to do with scarcity. One of the shifts that actually changed my life was realizing that I wanted my everyday and I deserved for my everyday to feel like a life I wanted to live in, not one that I was constantly preparing for later. Now I use the perfume. I light the candle, I wear the outfit, I buy the flowers. Actually, my husband buys the flowers, but not because every day is extraordinary, but because I'm alive on a random Tuesday, and that counts and that is worthwhile. So here's what I want you to try this week. I want you to do one small thing simply because you want to. Not because you've earned it, not because it's practical, not because it's a special occasion, just because you are allowed to experience joy inside your regular life. Not staying consistent with your personal goals and not understanding why. You set the goal. You mean it when you set it, and you start strong. Somewhere between the excitement of starting and the discomfort of continuing, you stop. And it doesn't make any sense because you feel pretty confident that it's not a lack of discipline or laziness because you have seen yourself do well in other areas. So you're feeling like maybe it just isn't possible for you. I saw this happening with some of my personal goals and I was like, what is going on? And I realized that there are 3 things that survival mode does here. First, it changes what gets prioritized. When your brain has spent a long time focused on keeping you afloat, it starts filtering everything through one question. Is this necessary for survival? Personal goals with no clear framing or structure, like losing weight or decluttering your home, building a routine, starting a business, they don't always register as urgent and get mentally filed under optional. So it may or may not happen, heavy on the may not. Second, survival mode teaches you to expect disappointment, which can lead to this fear around expecting good outcomes. And then third, it tricks you to associate striving with depletion. Even when you have the time and the space to do the thing, instead of feeling motivated to start, you procrastinate and scroll and waste time because any level of effort towards something immediately feels like pressure, more expectations and exhaustion, where it's like, all right, here comes the hard part again. It was really eye-opening for me to realize that these aren't exactly discipline problems, but something a bit more foundational to how you have learned to view yourself. It creates this cycle of self-sabotage where you half invest in a thing, that half investment leads to half results, which reinforces the belief that things don't work out, which creates even less belief in yourself the next time. Eventually, certain dreams stop making it to the list altogether because somewhere along the way, you just got tired of hoping for it. So here's what I want you to try. Pick one goal that you started and stopped multiple times and get really curious with it. I want you to ask yourself, is this not prioritized? Am I protecting myself from disappointment? Or does effort itself feel draining right now? Awareness is going to change the way you respond to yourself. And sometimes naming the pattern is the first step to finally being able to interrupt it. You feel uncomfortable when things are going well. Life can actually be good and you still don't fully relax into it. You finally have peace and stability, a healthy relationship, financial improvement, progress and calm, but yet there is this low-level tension, like part of you is waiting for the other shoe to drop. It may not feel big enough to call anxiety because it has started to feel normal. You just worry. You're a bit high-strung. You are someone who likes to stay prepared, but really your brain has gotten more familiar with chaos than with peace. And when that happens, when life is calm, you're kind of side-eyeing it. Something in you keeps scanning for problems because that is far more familiar territory. I realized that even though my life had objectively changed, like it was good, part of me was still emotionally living like everything could fall apart at any moment. I had worked so hard to build this beautiful and really stable life, but didn't know how to fully settle into it because the trauma of the difficult season was so big that I knew how to survive difficulty. I didn't like it, but I understood it. But being in this place where I didn't have to worry felt a little bit foreign, and I had to learn to like live in it. If you find that you have finally started to build a life that you have prayed for and you can't emotionally settle into it, here's what I want you to do. Choose one calming routine this week, whether it is sitting outside and drinking coffee slowly, or taking a walk, or listening to music. And when your mind tries to leave the moment, I want you to notice it. Survival mode keeps your body in this constant state of anticipation. Part of moving beyond it is learning that peace is not something that you have to rush through. You feel guilty when you rest. One of the most damaging things survival mode teaches women is that their value comes from usefulness. And once that gets wired in, rest stops feeling restful because internally, you don't fully feel okay unless you are doing, unless you are accomplishing something. You can physically stop moving, but mentally, you never take that moment to pause. In survival mode, productivity can become emotionally tied to safety. Not for everyone, but for those of you who are like me, who just needed to get stuff done. Being useful helped you get to the next level. Being dependable held your family and your life together. So for you, constant productivity is proof that you're doing okay. And without realizing it, your value has gotten tied in your output. I noticed this in myself when I realized how uncomfortable I became the moment that I sat down to relax, where I could stop moving, but things still hadn't quite shut down. Honestly, it is something that I still deal with when my life is busy, because we have seasons where life is busy, but when it is, the default survival instinct immediately kicks into gear. But now, instead of just leaning into it and tying my worth to my productivity, I recognize it for what it is. Here's something that I have found super helpful in combating that. I want you to intentionally practice one small moment of rest without earning it first. Not once you finish everything or because you've been productive enough, but just because rest is a necessary part of living. I love it because it is practicing this belief that worth is not dependent on output. And the only way that we grow and become better is through that practice. And the nice thing is that you don't have to figure it out alone. Real quick, if you're watching this and recognizing yourself in these patterns and thinking, I know what I need to do, I can't seem to stay consistent with it, I need a little bit of help, that is exactly what the collective is for. Women who are done figuring out life alone, community, accountability, support when that motivation dips, all of it is in there. Check it out, the link is in the description. Preparation over action. Researching, planning, organizing, watching videos, gathering information, waiting until you feel more ready, more clear, more healed, more motivated, more confident. Like I said, survival mode prioritizes safety above all else. And it loves preparation because preparation creates this illusion of control. If I prepare enough, maybe nothing will go wrong. If I learn enough, maybe I won't fail. If I wait long enough, maybe I can avoid discomfort altogether. You can easily recognize this as a manifestation of survival mode when preparation stops supporting action and starts replacing it, because action is vulnerable. Action means uncertainty. It means that you could fail or be judged or invest in something that doesn't work out. And when you have already experienced a lot of pain, preparation can feel a whole lot safer than participation. I remember when I first started my YouTube channel and I recorded my first video, I think like 3 times, and I delayed my start date a couple of times because I had no clue what I was doing and I wanted it to be perfect. Now, I'm not generally a person who delays a thing for years. When I say I waited, it was more like weeks, but I recognized that I was in my own head and I finally had to just act because staying in that place I would have kept kicking that ball down the road, and I knew I just needed to start. So here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to notice where you are over preparing instead of acting. Pick one area and then just take one imperfect action before you feel fully ready, because confidence is not usually what comes before movement. In fact, it never comes before movement. It is something that grows out of learning and doing the thing and moving and acting anyway. You treat progress like it doesn't count yet. You hit the goal. You accomplish something meaningful. You grow and heal and you change, but instead of letting yourself fully feel proud of it, you immediately just raise the bar to the next thing that needs to get done. People who have lived in survival mode for a long time often become extremely future focused, but in this warped way where you're so used to surviving towards something that you forget to fully be in and celebrate how far you've come. I remember feeling that so deeply, and even now I have to intentionally prioritize celebrating milestones because my default is to get excited. I mean, I do get excited when a thing happens, but then I quickly gloss over it to get to the next goal. So it is something that I am still working on, but I've gotten so much better at sitting in the accomplishment because I have done some really impressive things, if I say so myself. And it is not about whether or not you think those things are impressive, but it's more for me to recognize, wow, these are goals that I have met and I should celebrate it because it actually matters that it happened. It's something that I push with my girls in the collective and in coaching, and something that I'm going to challenge you to as well. So here's what I want you to try this week. Intentionally acknowledge something that you've accomplished recently instead of minimizing it. Say it out loud or write it down because your nervous system needs these moments of completion, proof that growth is happening and that it's safe to experience it. None of these patterns are character flaws. Every single one of them was a rational response to a hard season. Survival mode doing what it was designed to do, keeping you functioning when functioning was hard. But I finally realized that some of the behaviors that helped me to survive hard seasons eventually became the exact things that were keeping me from leveling up. The overworking, over-preparing, emotional suppression, the fear-based thinking, those things, they help you get through incredibly difficult seasons of life, but eventually you have to see that surviving and living and thriving, they're not the same thing. And that's really what this whole Level Up by Summer series has been about. Not just decluttering your home or fixing your habits or checking things off a list. It's been about raising the standard of how you show up for yourself in the small, ordinary, everyday moments that nobody sees. That's the privileged mindset that I so often talk about here on my channel and that I'll put here on the screen somewhere. It's not a circumstance. It's not an income level. It's not about how you look, but a decision. A woman who knows that she's worthy, she shows up for herself. She doesn't have invest in her own goals. She doesn't need to earn permission to rest. She doesn't walk past her own progress and arrange her life around fear. She lives like she matters on a regular Tuesday, in a regular week, in an ordinary season of life that actually is extraordinary if she let herself see it. Every single pattern that we talked about today is just a place where that standard slipped, where survival mode convinced you that you were the exception to your own worth. And the upgrade to it isn't complicated. It's just deciding over and over in the small moments that you're worth it. So that concludes our Level Up by Summer series. I want you to have the best summer ever, showing up for yourself like you matter, because you do. If you enjoyed this video and enjoyed this series, go ahead and share it with someone else who needs it. Also, if you're not subscribed, well, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. That is all for now. I love you so much, and I will see you in my next. Bye for now.